Hello, wild ones. This is Cole Adams, and I am working on some Momigami techniques. I went through and made some Momigami papers in a previous video. It's kind of crinkly papers that have been softened. They almost feel like leather now. And most of the ones I made are translucent. I also have Momigami'd, since I saw you, some paper napkin tops. So the printed paper napkins and just peeling apart the layers to just get the top layer. And I have a whole bin of Momigami papers here, and I'm gonna work on adding them and gluing them down to different substrates. So I hope you enjoy. Today I am altering a cover of a book with some Momigami paper. So I went and selected just a few of the pieces that I've Momigami lately. For those of you who don't know, I have a couple videos on it, but Momigami is a Japanese technique of kneading paper. So you knead and knead and knead it with lots of little wrinkles, and it becomes almost leathery. A lot of these papers are translucent. A lot of them are deli paper and gel plate deli paper. That's what this one is. I wanted to get some fields of color in to start, and this is the glue I used. It is some watered down acrylic gel medium, and this tool, so that's the watered down acrylic gel medium. This is an old bottle of Dan Smith acrylic gel medium gloss. And this tool I'm using is from the hardware store, and it's a edger or a liner pad for painting on a wall. And I find I really like the pressure you can get and the evenness you can get. With Momigami, the real lessons learned while I was gluing this on, I'm gluing it onto a slick surface that doesn't necessarily want to have something adhered to it. And I'm gluing down a substrate or a piece of paper that might have some hand lotion or oils on it that's been intentionally wrinkled up. So both of those things equal to me a not great way to adhere. A not good way to adhere to pieces of things that don't really want to become one. So I am going in with a downright sloppy layer of gel medium, and I'm applying it both underneath and on top like you'd apply a Mod Podge, just because I really am pretty certain that these things will want to pop apart, and I want to try to make them as close to one bonded material as possible. And that means I just need to use a lot of glue, a lot of pressure, and time. I want it to dry really, really well before I do anything else with it, like adding acrylics over the top or anything to finish it. And I knew going in, the only thing I really loved on this cover was this barn painting. I wanted to show you that Momigami texture a little up close. And a lot of my techniques are just to get a big color field. I just wanted to kind of change the red cover to more of a pinky cover. I added some black and some white. This is actually Momigami'd rice paper, and the texture of that when I glued it down, it just almost like melted away. It was really beautiful. And I have a feeling once it dries, it's going to have this really lush textural feel. And I'm going around this circle to preserve that one bit of the cover. So I'm just adding in little bits now. I kind of put in really big pieces to start, and then I just go in a little bit at a time. And I think I liked that like transparent layer over those windows, and just getting a little tiny bit of it really changed the shape of it. Now I'm going in with my finger to really pressure down and go in all over the book cover and make sure that those edges are really well adhered, and that the texture, how do I say this, the texture of the glue is textured. So adding more little bits over the top, I knew that would melt away. That's that rice paper. Now I'm going in and intentionally addressing the edge that will open. I want to make sure I have a couple layers and I have some really good pressure in. I feel like that corner is the corner that will get the most use out of the book. And I'm just going to go up that whole edge and add an extra little bit because wasn't really careful to get right to the edge. And this upper part looks like I'm happy with it. And now I'm going in with that really thoughtful pressure all the way around the edge. Sometimes wiping up glue, sometimes redepositing it in other spots on the cover, and really checking wherever that paper intersects. And I wanted to go over this star and change the texture of the book cover to feel a little bit more like the Momigami paper. So I just went in with a kind of a tapping motion to mimic the feel of that crinkly paper with the acrylic gel medium as it dries. I decided to go around the whole cover and do that. And I really love the way the texture looks on that. Now a little bit more paper is left and definitely more glue left, so I went in to my favorite art supply substrate that I have a lot of, but I use them all the time. These folders made out of old packaging. That's that rice paper. You can tell it totally is translucent as you add it to a piece like this. And I'm going to go in and cover kind of all the black bits on this piece. And I don't know if you can tell, but as I was gluing this, the paper packaging and the Momigami paper were just sucking this glue moisture up. So my glue was drying pretty quickly, and I had to kind of go in with flair. This is a Momigami piece of napkin. Printed napkins come apart, so this is just the very top printed layer. And I was at a friend's house, and this was in her restroom, and I washed my hands and dried them with it all day, and then just had it in my pocket on the way home and said, oh, I can Momigami that. So I was Momigamiing it in my pocket, talking to my friend, and then I pulled it apart and added it to the art supplies. I also have some really cool older napkin fabric that is napkin paper that's going to come out that I got from an estate sale. And probably the other fun piece of Momigami that I've been making lately is my paint rags. So that is a piece of paper towel that I use for watercolor cleanup. And at the end of the watercolor session, I just kind of mopped up everything that was left in my really, really wet palette onto the paper towel to get that yellowy, orangey consistency. So it really changed the whole texture of the towel. And once it was dry, it was really crispy. So A crispy texture longs for a good wrinkling session, Momigami session. This is another printed napkin, and I don't really like getting that whole, like those really bold textures, but I loved the tonal change with this piece, but I wanted to rip it up pretty small so that I got a few leaves, but mainly just that deeper value tone as part of it. And I'm just having a good time here. This is just using up supply and working really intuitively and very, very quickly. I don't know if you noticed I had to kind of go back underneath some of those papers because they really don't want to stick. That is one thing with Momigami that has any sort of lotion on it. It wants to be its own thing, and trying to coax it into being friends with its partners and with its substrate is it's a gluing feat. This is more of that paper painted paper towel. So this one is mostly paper towels and napkins, and I hadn't tried those on a true art piece yet, and I really wanted to try them in this setting first. I had used napkins before, but never the paper towel. And I love these textures. They're so interesting. So that was a fun experience gluing everything down, and I wanted to show you kind of what came out of that. This is that final piece I worked on. I'm gonna pull out. I'm already using it as a portfolio piece, but here is the final recycled portfolio with the Momigami textures. I really love how it feels. It really changes. I glued just regular papers to the front to see how different the two sides feel. And this side is really nice. It's got this textural quality to it that's really quite fabulous. Here is the book cover all dried. And I am still not super pleased with the coloring here, so I was just going to add a little bit of paint while we were talking. But everything glued down really well. It has definitely molded into the cover. I don't expect I'm going to have any tearing or bubbling or anything like that. It really feels like they're the same piece. So I just added some of this really bright opera-ish pink to this piece, and I wanted to show you kind of like the cool textures you can get with just a really light touch. Adding some acrylic over the top of Momigami gives you just this really lush textural piece. So I'm gonna start changing the color of especially this compass rose or barn quilt with the pink, and kind of adding this extra layer of lush color. And I'll do that a little bit off camera, but I wanted to make sure you saw how when you put it over the texture, you really do get these lovely crinkle texture. It's really cool. I still have my Momigami, my little Momigami book. I've added a few pieces of paper to this as well. This is that much thicker paper, and how it glued down, and it glued down beautifully. So taking and adding to this little book has helped inform how I started working with it bigger. I wasn't done there. So this is a little folder from a thrift store, and these textures are so nice. And this is that I wanted to take a really big piece of this paint wipe off paper towel, and I get bamboo paper towels, so that it doesn't come with a lot of texture. I really am glad for that, and I think the Momigami took the texture right out of that. It does lay down differently than like the deli paper. This one lays down with much more less wrinkles even after it's been wrinkled than like the deli paper pieces. But man, I really love the textural quality of these. It almost feels like a leather portfolio on the back. I still need to add some here, but with dry times, I was just trying to add where I could. But that's the cover flap and the back cover, and I really love it. So go out and play. It costs you nothing to crinkle paper, and it's got this like meditative quality to it. I can totally see why it's one of those beautiful Japanese practices. And I hope you get out and create wild ones. If you are enjoying this content, please like and subscribe and let me know if you tried Momigami or if you're interested in trying it. It's so fun and interesting. I hope you go out and play.